It's nuts, really. We're back at it again. You know, we've done 10, we've done 9, we've done 8. We've seen Dweezil, Destroyed, and Blaze in that order come down in the order that they have, and we're coming into the bit of the meat and potatoes of it. You know, I think after number 7, I think things are definitely going to get a bit hairy. The discussion's definitely going to build up a bit more on players shuffling positions. But I think 7th position's a really good really good position for this player, and I think he deserves every bit of credit that he's got this past year. I think he definitely deserves a spot in this top 10. And maybe even further up the list. I think again he's the same sort of person, similar to Blaze, where his stats may not represent exactly the impact he has on the server, and I think that's definitely something we're going to see throughout pretty much all of his results and all of his performances throughout this past year. He's performed at a really high level in a really good team, surrounded by really good players, and he's still able to perform when it matters most. And without further ado, I'm gonna give you 2 words, and you'll probably get who it is. It's gonna be Headshot Machine. Yeah, you know it. It's the one and only Doru. I'm gonna say Doru at number 7. It's a bit of a hairy pick. I think people compare him a lot to Blaze, and I think they are very comparable. They're very similar players, and the roles they fulfill in the team. But in particular, I think Doru rather had probably a bit more of a successful year than Blaze in that regard. I think when the big tournaments came up, I think Doru stepped up his game a bit more, and the tournament we're specifically going to look at is going to be that of Medal State, where ATK pretty much like untarnished throughout the whole thing. They finished the tournament without dropping a map, and I think this was probably Doru's best performance of the year. But throughout the year, Doru's putting up pretty decent numbers in the final of Telco VS Gaming Masters, as well as throughout the finals of ESEA Open. And I think this Medal State Rogue Soldiers of Fortune final, he really stepped up his game, and I think it's arguably his best performance of the year. He finished the tournament rather the second best kill differential on ATK. First was Slowy, I think he finished plus 41, and Doru finished plus 38 just behind him, and then it was Fady, then it was Mistim, and then it was Blaze, all of which finished positive throughout the whole tournament. But I think this is when Doru really stepped up his game, and Doru showed us the player he is, the headshot machine he is, and I think Doru's definitely one to keep an eye on. Unfortunately he's not moving overseas with ATK. They'll have to deal with Mango, you know. Definitely not a downgrade by any stretch of the imagination, but I think Doru's definitely a player where he'll be missed in the role he performs and the way he anchors bomb sites, or he's actually not really the anchor. He's sort of that swing player. On B, Blaze will be left alone. Doru will be going over to help over towards A. On Nuke, he plays top hut. You know, on Mirage, he plays cats. Sort of positions like that where he has the ability to help and play off of his teammates. And I think that's definitely interesting to see. And the match we're going to look in particular is going to be this absolute lights out performance against Royalty, which was the Saturday morning of the Rogue Soldiers of Fortune. He finished the game 25-5. I think he finished the half 19-4, which I think is absolutely nuts. 68% headshot rates. That's what you love to see. 25 kills and still 68% headshots. You know Doru is the headshot machine. We know him in the South African scene as that absolutely unreal aim. And I think Doru, the one big asset of his game is just his positioning, especially on CT side. I think that's definitely somewhere where he excels. I think his positioning is probably the best aspect of his game, always positioning himself in the most favorable position to win a gunfight. And when he's getting pushed by multiple angles and by multiple enemies, he's always the best player to stay alive, buy as much time for his teammates for the rotate. And I think if you look throughout most of his scoreboards, he seems to always be that player with the least deaths, which is kind of confusing considering he's also the player running into the site first or second. But then I think on CT side is especially where he starts to perform at the highest level. So we're going to look at this demo, which is going to be the CT side of Nuke against Royalty. And it is a good demo, to say the least. I think Doru really showed us like what he's capable of on this side of the map. And he's going to be playing top hut, which is a bit of a tough position as a CT. Usually on Nuke, if you're the top hut player, you got to have the protocols down. You know, if the outside smokes come in, you're usually the player to drop vent 9 out of 10 times, right? Depending on the outside setup, stuff like that. Like if the outside smokes come out and you don't have info towards downstairs, the top hut player is usually the first port of call, the first player to cross. So it looks like Royalty, they're just gonna try gun it down secret. No shots were hit there by Doru, but I think throughout this half we're gonna see just Doru's multi-frag potential and how he can put numbers up on the board and why he deserves a spot ultimately on this top 10 list, and I think he's definitely one to look out for. I know he's not moving overseas with ATK because of his studies, and I hope he stays playing at a high level, because I think he's definitely a player that will be missed throughout in the South African scene and the South African competitive scope of things. And I think it's definitely going to be exciting to see how he performs if he does carry on playing, and what team he finds himself on. Because as I said, ATK, they are going to move overseas with Mango and not Doru, which, as I said, is no downgrade by any stretch of the imagination in my opinion. But I do think that Doru is definitely a player that, if he plays for any team and he leaves that team, there's definitely going to be an area in the team that's going to be missing. You know, the role he plays, how he plays on CT as well as T side, he provides a lot for the team, and I think this half on Niix is definitely going to encapsulate that. The reason why I chose this as well is because usually the top HUD player on Niix is the player where the protocols have to be down. You have to have a really good understanding. Ooh. Oh, headshot machine himself. A real nice triple spray down. I think the top HUD player on Niix, he definitely has to have the protocols down. The comms have to be on point, especially on a map like Niix, and I think that's why ATK have excelled on this map throughout this past year in 2020. They have unrecognizably the best Niix in the country, without a doubt, and Doru is probably one of the top HUD players, the best top HUD player in the country, just because of how he chooses to play around the angles, he chooses to play around Tetris, when he chooses to drop vents, play second vents, how they lobby push, etc, etc. I think Doru's really got all the protocols down as a CT defender. So he only died 4 times in this whole half, which is pretty big to consider that this wasn't an extremely informed royalty at the time, and there's actually a player pushing it from miles. Great when they're over towards God's Not Dead. Just with the M4, he just gets the instant headshots, and it's so unfortunate when you're on the side of an M4 spray and you feel like you just can't compete, where in that situation God's Not Dead shoots a bullet and then you just get 180'd and insta-dinked, and Doru gets the kill straight away. So you finish this game with 68% headshot rate, and that was an insta headshot going to a body shot with the M4 just because of the spray. So I mean, the aim on this man is genuinely nuts. But yeah, I think the role that Doru plays on the CT side is definitely important, and I'll allude to it quite often throughout this half of the demo. As I said, when you're playing top hats on Niix, you really got to have the protocols down. The comms from the outside players have to be on point, so that Doru knows when to drop, when not to drop, when there is info downstairs, when there isn't, when they need to push lobby, when they don't. All sort of stuff like that all plays into effect. So he's going to always start the round off on this top hut position, which is pretty powerful from pretty much all things considered. If you're a T, usually if you're a T side, you're going to nade the door pretty much every round, and it's a pretty favorable fight to take from the top hut player. If they choose to rush A, he has the eyes down look on the T's when they're running out of door or running out of hut. So it's a very favorable gunfight to take if you are the top hut player. Also, it's very easy to maneuver around. If the T's do choose to molly top hut, you can drop down towards Tetris, and then the person playing backside could possibly hold for the door push, and that you can drop down Tetris and hold for the push out hut. It's all very malleable, that the positionings that the CTs can play on the A bomb site. He is going to be playing the A bomb site with Blaze, which is something you see quite often throughout of all ATK's maps on Mirage and as well as Inferno. They both play the same bomb sites. They play off one another quite well, and I think they have a really good chemistry, and this is going to be the first example of how you can reposition as a CT. You know, you've played top hut the previous rounds, even though the T's may not know that you've been playing there. Well, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's probably the place you are going to be playing, but already straight off the rip, he's going to choose to reposition over towards second vents. And usually when you want to play second vents, you more often than not you want to keep a smoke, because when they're choosing to execute the bomb sites, it's always good to drop a smoke on the molly that is inevitably going to come to this position. Or if you just wait second vents long enough and hold the door push out, which is exactly what he's doing now, you can smoke door on a timing and then buy some time for your teammates for the rotate if the air hit does come in. But a player has been spotted outside, so we are going to see how Doru and Blaze choose to react off of this. There is a single outside player. I'm not sure who that is. I assume it's going to be Slowy. Oh, it's Mistim. Okay, so Mistim just gets taken out by Donkey, and now's where things get a bit hairy. You know, they could hit the air bomb site. That's why Fady's just chosen to rotate off of ramp, and now they're going to choose to hit the air bomb site. But the position towards second vent is very, very good. He gets one, he gets two, and he eventually gets traded up. But that's exactly what you need, you know. he needed to go big, and that's exactly what he did. And ultimately, Slow was able to win the round at the end of the day. And that 2K from Doru has come in. Blaze playing top hut. He gets taken out, but then Doru's still able to pivot and weave and buy time for his teammates and make the T force for that second gunfight. He got the first trade, which was really good, and then didn't overcommit to the gunfight, which I think is important. When you're playing that position, you need to buy time for your teammates. You need to be able to make the T's work for that gunfight. And now, due to the setup of the CTs, the outside smokes, I assume, have come in, and now ATK don't have any information towards downstairs. So he's going to be holding this pixel angle, which is really, really powerful. You hold the pixel angle, you either right click the smoke or you left click the smoke looking down at the floor, and you're playing that pixel angle where as soon as you see the T's, if they double peek or whatever, you're still able to drop the smoke and get back and hold this headshot angle towards stairs. And the T's probably won't push the smoke, but if they do, it's a very favorable gunfight for you to take. And Doru has spoken about his aim. I think he's definitely he wants to take these gunfights all day. So he's only died once, so he's only going to die 3 more times in the whole half. I hate to break it to you. So we are going to be watching. There's not going to be a lot of fast forwarding this half. It's just going to be pretty much just Doru staying alive, shooting heads as he does. But yeah, I think, as I was saying, the top hut player, the protocols you have to have down are definitely something interesting to keep in mind. And yesterday I released the Blaze video, so I'd like some feedback on that one. Ooh, this is probably leggy. It is leggy, okay. Gets all this info outside, a really calculated aggression. 4v4, you don't have info across the map, so he chooses to push secrets and gets a kill. And now they pretty much know that the only choices they have is pushing out A or pushing ramp. And Fady is actually going to aggress ramp, so now they know it's pretty much probably going to be A. He gets one, does some extra damage, gets traded out, and ATK win the round in the end. So I did release the Blaze video yesterday. I'm recording this just after it's gone live, so I'd appreciate any feedback on that one. Again, any sort of criticism you guys can give, I'll accept. Anything I need to work on, I'm more than happy to hear you guys' feedback, and again, sort of what your guys' thoughts are on these positions that I put these players in. At the end of the day, as I said multiple times throughout every video, I'm reiterating it as often as possible. It is my opinion. You guys are more than welcome to disagree. You're more than welcome to make your own rankings, which you can put in the comments down below. And yeah, I'd love to hear you guys' feedback. And I think Doru definitely deserves a spot, just as Blaze. I think those are probably 2 players from ATK that are probably overlooked a bit in the South African scene. I think the roles that they play and the way that they play it is extremely powerful, and the way in which the roles they play, and they do the dirty work on the ATK side. You know, they are running into sites first, allowing players like Fady and Slowy and Mistim to all pop off and put up real good numbers. And but I think on the CT side is especially where Doru shines. You can really see how he plays as a player, and how pretty much phenomenal he is locking down bomb sites. He's able to multi-frag on the sides just because of how good his aim is and how good his positioning is. I think the way he positions himself, as I said prior, really makes himself the favorable winner of a gunfight, regardless of where the T's are coming from. And I think if you're looking to learn how to play top huts on A, I think he's probably, if you want to learn from a South African player in particular, I think he's probably one player you could look at, because he just plays the position to really good effect. So ATK like doing this quite often, is instead of having Slowy cross outside towards red, or towards having a rifle across towards secret too early, they like to vary it up a bit and just have him drop down vent straight early in the round, so that when these outside smokes do come in, he's already down and he already has all that info. And Doru's playing in this sort of positioning instead of playing on top of the hut, so that he can drop down vent silently if he needs to do so, because they know that they're already down. So he's meta-tick to the molly, but usually when you play close towards the first vent, you're able to drop down quite silently. But now the bomb's being planted, they're going to try to push the issue. It's now 3v3, and it's important to play together in this sort of scenario. So Doru's going to come over towards Decon, wait for his teammates so that they can hit the bomb site together on this retake. Smoke on the bomb and a smoke towards the cross, and a flash to accompany it allows them to cross over. And Doru's just going to jump on the bomb. So I'm not sure. And he wins the round, as easy as you like. So I think the post plants from Royalty there are probably a bit questionable, considering you plant back silo. I don't know if there was a player top railing or something like that, but those are usually the two most common spots. Usually if you plant back silo, you want to get control of decon if you're a T, or you want to play top railing and like overwatch over towards ramp, or you just plant safe, which is that little like 90-degree corner just outside of where the old toxic was. That's a pretty powerful position. You're safe from ramp. You just got to pop a smoke over towards decon while your teammates take double and control, and those are pretty much the two standard plant spots on Niix. So Royalty's post plants were probably a bit questionable in that scenario. Planting back silo, I don't know where the players were, but it didn't look like they were in the best post plants. But though he just capitalized up the smoke from the bomb and was able to get the defuse. But as I was saying, I think ROG Soldiers of Fortune was probably Doru's best performance of the year. It was probably his best tournament overall, and I think he really excelled in the environment he found himself in. He played against big teams, the top teams in the country, Goliath, Dynamic, Sinister 5. They played against Royalty twice, I believe. Goliath in the final as well as in the upper bracket. So I think it's interesting to see how Doru's performed at the highest level. And I think this is the weekend before the Telkom VS Gaming Masters, and I think this is probably, arguably, his best performance of the year. So this is also a really, really nice angle. It's a nice headshot angle for a player coming in towards Hut. A very favorable duel. Usually you can play this angle with your other A player. If you know the player's outside, he's probably not going to wrap heaven. You can play this angle, and your A player can play just back towards your left. So when the T peaks, he's looking at two players at the exact same time, which is exactly what ATK did there. So usually when you're against a one player in a 1vx, you always want to make sure he's fighting at two players at a time, or at least getting a trade. So that's what ATK did there. Doru being on the headshot angle on Tetris, Blaze playing just below him. When that T player peaks, which was Soxy or Logie Bear in that scenario, he's fighting two players at the same time, which makes it impossible to win. So yeah, I think Doru this next year, he's as I've said, he's not playing for ATK. He's not going to go overseas with them, as they propose to go overseas in April. Unfortunately, he's not going to. But I think I personally hope he does still play at a high level competitively in South Africa, just because he's such a good player overall. I think he's really good at the roles he plays for ATK. I think he definitely excels on the CT side of pretty much any map. I think that's where he's most comfortable. Nice nade. I think that's where he's really able to excel and really able to perform at the highest level, just because of his positioning and the way he's able to take these gunfights, and just how good his aim is. I mean, talk to anyone in South Africa and they know Doru is the headshot machine. Like, he just gets absolute headshots for free, it feels like, all the time. So genuinely a great player, and I hope he finds himself on a good team if he does carry on to play, which again I really hope he does, considering it's always a pleasure watching players at the top of their game, playing at the highest level.
Spot.
Yeah. But yeah, it's gonna be a 2v3 retake on the B bomb site down towards the lower stairs of the lower bomb site of Nuke. Man advantage for ATK, and again, it's important to play these angles together. So gonna clear out. Ooh, now sure adjustment there from God's Not Dead actually. So ATK attempted to play together. Blaze was gonna take first contact over towards Decon, and then Doru was gonna swing open the door, and then get the trade. But God's Not Dead just hit an absolutely unreal shot. So all props to him. But that's only the second time he's died, I think. So we've only got 2 more deaths to go through. He's just not dying, is Doru. And that's always something I've found interesting. Like, if you look at the scoreboards of ATK, Doru seems to be the player that just never dies. I think on CT side, he's probably the player where, as I said, he's always good for a couple frags. And if he needs to save, he'll save. He's a very smart player. And I think he really excels. Again, he's going to play over towards... Oh, he's not going to play second vent. He's going to play Tetris. He's going to hold this angle from Hut. Okay. The reason why he's doing this is obviously ATK. I've got all the info that there's no one in Hut. So, in lobby, rather. Oh, there's someone in lobby. Okay, EXE's going to catch Fady. So Doru's going to hold for 3 and wins out the gunfight as easy as you like. I think like Doru, doesn't matter, like his crosshair placement is just so good. Doesn't matter when the T's peak, it seems like he always gets that insta headshot off, and he's always able to just win out those all important gunfights. So this is just going to be a save from ATK. Nothing really to write home about. But I just feel like Doru's crosshair placement is just on point, you know, like if a T decides to peek him, the first bullet is going to be a headshot, and then the T is just going to have a rough time trying to make things better. Ooh, Blaze? Okay. Blaze catches God's not dead. This is a partial investment. So ATK are going to look to close the distance. A little bit of a lobby crunch. And it's important here, which a lot of people don't seem to realize, is what they've done here is they've got a bit of a three-pronged attack, but it's important to let the rifle not go first. So you're essentially baiting your teammates who's not on their superior weaponry. Great frag. Look at the angle he holds. He makes the T work so hard for the frag. He's not going to overcommit. He's going to play as passive as he needs to. Gets the first frag, makes it a 2v1 in their favor, and just reposition as easy as you like. And now it's going to be really hard for this T to win the round. But I think when you have saved rifles, it's always important to bait your players with the pistols. And people talk about good baits and bad baits, and that's definitely a good bait. You know, you're letting Mistim go first. You're letting Fady and Blaze go through ramp and hut respectively. They're going to take contact first, and then the rifle's going to come in and overwatch and try to do the damage, not without him getting shot at effectively. And that's exactly what Doru rather did to really good effect. And even in that round, he was able to get that first frag in lobby. He was able to fall back, get the player mouth, and again stays alive, doesn't overcommit to the gunfight, doesn't give a T any way in which he can win the round. And ATK, that's exactly what they do so well. They really punish the enemy team for the mistakes that they make without making any mistakes on their own part. Like, of course they're going to make mistakes, but they make as little mistakes as possible. And I think Doru is definitely one of those players who encapsulates that sort of ideology of making the least mistakes possible and punishing the T's mistakes. I think a good example is when we saw him get that double kill onto what's in mouth earlier. He's playing towards second vents, he gets the first frag, and there's a T that's sort of chasing his frag, and he frags him again, which you should never force a trade if you're a T. If you're a T and you don't get the trade, the initial trade straight away, you can't chase the frag, because then you're just going to lose your own head. And that's exactly what Doru does so well, is he forces players into a bad position, and then is able to capitalize. A really good lobby crunch there. Gets another. And another assist on towards Donkey. So again, like, as easy as you like. And again, like 2 more headshots. Just this man, especially on CT side of the naked. That's scary stuff. That's scary stuff right there. That's real scary stuff. That's all I'm saying. Like, okay, now this is a bit interesting. They've got a single AWP towards outside, and this is okay. So he gets 1, he gets 2. I like it. Always good for 2. Always good for 2. ATK are actually playing a 3-man A setup. I think they had the AWP towards outside, Mistim playing towards second vent, but they obviously didn't have the info that they could come mouth really quickly, so they were able to duck and weave, pivot and duck, dive, dip, dive and dodge, all that good stuff. And as I said, Doru, he's always good for 2, he's always good to perform. And coming into the last round now, just we see pretty much half that encapsulates Doru as a player. He's always good, stays alive, buys time for his teammates. We haven't really had to see him buying time for his teammates, quote unquote. He's sort of just the player that's able to frag out on a bomb site, really force the T's to work for the frags that they get on him, and he performs really well. And he makes really calculated aggression just like this, so they don't have info towards downstairs. So he's actually going to drop vents and actually push this area, which gets his team a lot of info towards outside. And he's able to help Slowy. Slowy's going to get flashes from Mistim, and he's actually got a 4K in this round, so I don't know if he ends up getting the ace, but Doru's just going to try to get the last frag, but Blaze ends up doing it, and that's it. And that's going to be the number 7 player on the list. I think Doru's definitely one that encapsulates a good CT player. Got the protocols down, knows how to play CT well, makes the T's fight for their frags, and a really good performance from Doru in all. And I think it's definitely going to set us up for the latter part of the top 10. I think there's definitely some interesting players coming up, which you guys may disagree or agree. We'll see what happens. But yeah, to keep up to date, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon. Like the video if you enjoyed. Share it with someone if you think anyone needs it to be shared with. And yeah, just to keep up to date, as I said, subscribe and hit the bell icon, and catch me on tomorrow's upload, which Blaze's upload would have been today. Doru will come out on Sunday, and then 3 p.m. every day for the next couple of days we'll be finishing off the top 10. So 3 p.m. you'll be able to check my channel, and there should be a new upload. And yeah, this was Doru coming in at 7. Tune in tomorrow to see who comes in at 6, and catch you on the flip.